Travis Wingate. So I had been wanting closure just to make sure that my wrong choice at Rick's College was not one that led to disastrous results for Leanne Murdoch, hoping that she's gone on to live a good and happy life. I can't find any trace of her whatsoever. There are sites that will show you people and where they've lived, but then you have to then pay to do a background check on people. I can't even find her listed on any of those, whereas I can be found, not just because of the churches messing with my life, but so kind of discouraging. I can only find her through Rick's College, as she was the Woman of the Year for that year. And but even then you have to use your password to get into the details. So I guess I could figure out a way to do that, I guess. I'd probably have to make an account. But it got me aware of John R. Murdoch, who was her original pioneer ancestor. And he was involved with the back and forth of the handcart companies. This was 1856 to 1860, when the Mormons who were converted in England, Wales, etc., came to America and joined Brigham Young in Salt Lake City. What needs to be understood is why they chose to join Brigham Young and not any of the other breakoffs. And so this video we get to explain how Brigham Young was able to take over despite not following the rules. In 1833, Brigham Young's wife had died, and Heber C. Kimball then came to get Brigham Young to bring him into the church. And Joseph Smith immediately set the two of them as missionaries, called them to missionary labors, and they were among the highest convert rate of any of the other missionaries, which should have been suspicious, because as the church itself says on Brigham Young's mission site page or whatever on their website, that talks about how they went to their own homeland where they were living and were able to convert those among their neighbors and bring them in. And then Brigham Young then was going eastward and up into I think even Canada for a little bit, before then eventually going to England. And if you don't know of Freemasonry, If you don't know of the anti-Mason movement, if you have not been listening to my videos on how the Smiths were the cause of the anti-Mason movement, as nobody else knows this information because nobody even thought to do the research to find out. It was all me. You see, William Morgan was a captain in the War of 1812 under General Andrew Jackson, and during that war he had uncovered a plot to take over America and return it to a monarchy. And the plot involved the Illuminati, formed by Johann Adam Weishaupt on 1st of May 1776, that had expanded and branched off and so on and so forth. But there was a group that had infiltrated the Scottish Rites Freemasonry in America. And that was their tactic. You infiltrate, you rise in popularity, even numbers, take over positions of authority, and then take over the organization so that you can be part of the master plan worldwide. And that was what their plan was for the United States, was to infiltrate the Scottish Rites, have them gain in numbers and popularity, rise up into positions of government authority in the various states, and eventually get into Congress, and eventually get into the presidency. And thus take over the government of the United States and overthrow America. And the anti-Mason movement prevented it from occurring in 1826. And what had been uncovered is that their end plan for final takeover was to use the Bible dates for the latter days. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of many a religion, many of a false, fake Messiah or Christ who rises up as a leader of an organization, a religion, and claims that God revealed unto him the date for the end of the world, and that date came and it went. The only problem is none of them used the Bible. In the field of astronomy, it's a science field, when you speak in terms of conjunctions or signs in the heavens, you're giving a date. And Star Trek does the star date such and such, because they can't really pinpoint an actual sign, because it depends on which planet you're viewing from. And so they use a star date in that place instead. But on Earth, we have a set constellation, zodiac, and the movements of the planets and the sun and the moon at a consistent rate, which varies per object. And as a result, we're able to do farming, sail the seas, etc. And as a result, John the Revelator specifically is more detailed, explaining Isaiah's sign of the Son of Man, for example, in Revelation 12, and he gives a couple other signs to indicate and confirm that that is the actual date he's referring to, because those other two signs follow it. And then 19, the sign of Jesus coming down from the heavens on Pegasus. Yeah, it's a sign. It's not the actual event that was to occur. And so you get guys like Bill Maher, who's anti-religion, who makes fun of the Bible because he doesn't understand its code. He thinks that it's actual crazy talk, deceiving people into a religious frenzy. That's just how people have interpreted it. And so the Smiths knew about this, and as a result wrote the Book of Mormon. Now, I know Mormons are upset with me. They don't like me because how dare I? The Book of Mormon is true. It came from brass plates that don't exist, or are taken by the angel and magically disappeared, defying the laws of physics. And when you read Heber C. Kimball's account in Wikipedia about his Masonic origins, he talks about making contact with Joseph Smith Sr., but doesn't mention his name. Why doesn't he mention his name? He knows exactly who he is. This is in his journal after he arrives in Salt Lake City, talking about his life. Why doesn't he mention that the Master Mason that approved him for the York Rites rank, as he doesn't say that he was Scottish because of where he'd lived, and yet still became a Master Mason himself, but he still believed that the records were all destroyed, and doesn't name Smith Sr., who apparently approved his request to be a 7th rank from a 3rd degree rank in Scottish Rites, to skip 4 ranks. The degrees are with Scottish Rites, the ranks are with York Rites. So there's lots of confusion as to the pre-1826 Masonry. And so it shows that Heber C. Kimball was lying in his own journal, and it was purposely withholding information from his own journal, because he also talks in his journal about how he, this is after Joseph Smith and after Joseph died, and he's now in Salt Lake City. He now comes out and says, "Oh, I too saw a sign in the heavens the night that Joseph Smith got the plates." Oh? I guess he didn't realize that there would be computer technology in the future that would have a computer program of the heavens so that we can look in the sky for ourselves and see if we see that particular sign he claimed, which did not exist, but there was a sign that night. But it was more in line with the Smiths and what they were doing with the Book of Mormon, which, by the way, includes those signs from John's Revelation. And so the converts that Brigham and Heber were getting in mass numbers were those Scottish Rites Mormons who had been infiltrated by the Illuminati with the intention to destroy America. And because of their large numbers, Joseph Smith had them put into the missionary quorum of 12, but under Thomas B. Marsh. He was the president. And just as the Illuminati's practice of infiltration, so too was it with Brigham and Heber C. Kimball. As they got the numbers to overwhelm the number of other converts, they rose in popularity, getting into positions of authority. This was 1838. This is why I call that year, that event that occurred that summer, the leadership crisis. You've probably heard of the succession crisis. That's when Joseph died. Nobody was the legitimate successor. The leadership crisis, 1838. This is when Brigham's secret underground combination conspiracy group rose up to take over the church. And they didn't do all of it, they just advanced to the next level. Brigham Young got put in as president as they excommunicated, which they're not allowed to do excommunication, nonetheless they did it anyway. Had him excommunicated on my birthday, 1839. And Joseph Smith, when he was out of jail again, because this secret group were the ones committing all the crimes on behalf of Joseph Smith, even though it was under orders of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball. And so Joseph Smith gets out in 39, calls Brigham Young Judas, and calls Thomas B. Marsh a good man that was wrongfully chased out of the church because he wanted nothing to do with the church that had this secret Gadianton band Danites. And so yes, Brigham and Heber were the ones who orchestrated and carried out the assassination of Joseph Smith, making sure that two of their guys, Willard Richards and John Taylor, were there in the jail to make sure that the job was done. They got the Warsaw Lodge, a group from the Warsaw Lodge. The Lodge Grandmaster told them to stand down. The governor told them to stand down. They didn't stand down. And yeah, they went in, but Joseph Smith had the 6-shooter and chased out the mob. Uh-oh, plans are being thwarted here. They have a time frame because my 3rd grade grandfather, John Solomon Fulmer, was getting the militia to make sure that Joseph Smith and Hiram Smith were going to make it to their court hearing. Because they're innocent, they were framed, as they always have been. And so that's where Willard Richards had, when he got the wine, because all Mormons know about that part of it, but he also got a 6-shooter himself. John Taylor wrestled with Hiram with my 3rd grade grandfather's single-shot pistol, and it ended up shooting Hiram up through the jaw into his head, felled him to the ground. Joseph Smith, after chasing out the mob with just 3 balls, used the remaining 3 balls on John Taylor, chasing John Taylor under the bed. And then Joseph Smith ran to his brother and wept over his brother as Willard Richards then came out of hiding from that corner, shot Joseph in the back, and took his body, dumped it out the window towards the well, where they then got their rifles. And the rifles, you shoot, you reload, you shoot again, you reload, shoot again. So as the Willard Richards and John Taylor were claiming that balls were flying all over the place, no. If you know the facts, you can figure out the truth and the lies that they were telling. And so, looks like I'm going to have to take care of a program here. And so, with Joseph dead, Brigham Young had the most populous number of Mormons on his side. And was able to take a number of people, and because he is in the majority, he gets all of the possessions. So he's the wealthiest as a result too. And when you understand that women did not have rights back then, that they were property to their husbands, what do women do if they've no longer got a religion and all the men are leaving the country? Nobody knew of the plot to murder Joseph Smith, as even Brigham and Heber said that it was the mob. Everybody blamed the mob. It's still to this day on Wikipedia, the mob. And so, yeah. Mobs burned the Latter-day Saint Temple in Nauvoo in 1848? I doubt that. Hold on a minute, I gotta take care of a program here. Alrighty, so let's see, 1838 Mormon War in Missouri. Yeah, that was what they used. They used a war to do the leadership takeover. Let's see, Brother Harm, killed by the mob. No, killed and murder are two different things. If you kill somebody, that means you take their life. If you murder, it's a deliberate attempt to take someone's life. It's a crime to murder. It is not a crime to kill, because self-defense, you kill. If you invade somebody's home and shoot them in their home, you murdered them. If you're at war, you kill. You just hope that your leaders are in a justified war against the enemy. Let's see. But here, according to church belief, see how Wikipedia is biased here? Because it's not according to all in the church's beliefs. Not Sidney Rigdon, not Lucy Mack, not Emma Smith, not David Whitmer, not James Strang, not Alpheus Cutler. So, which church belief? See, this is where they cover the truth up, where the church steps in and interferes here. But God cannot inspire someone who is not the true successor. This has to do with the videos I've been trying to get across where Brigham Young is not the true successor. This is why I warn you about ex-Mormons who are popular, who claim that the current church is bad because Joseph Smith was lying according to the current church's claims. You give legitimacy to Brigham Young as successor when you do this. You just need to call Mormons out and say, no, you guys aren't the true successors. You didn't follow section 107 verse 22. He failed to do that. He exalted himself because of the numbers that he had following him, because of his hatred for the Smiths. As Heber C. Kimball reveals in his journal, he had found out who had been involved in thwarting the plan to take over America. And so during the winter of 46 to 47, the leaders, Brighamites, were in winter quarters, and Iowa laid plans in winter quarters and Iowa. There needs to be a comma here, guys. Laid plans for the migration of a large number of saints. Wasn't it inspired by God? Yeah. It was fleeing the country because they murdered Joseph Smith and Hiram. And so, yeah, large number of saints, Scottish rites for the most part. Then they kidnapped the women who had no rights, forced them into sex slavery with polygamy, and got them sex trafficked as they fled the country to another country to have the sex orgies. Let's see. And yeah, Brigham Young is sometimes referred to as the American Moses. He knew. Why doesn't Nelson know? Nelson completely choked in conference with the simple Hebrew definition of Israel. Brigham Young knew who he was as he usurped that title, exalting himself to it. Why doesn't Nelson know the title he holds? Brigham Young knew it, and all who followed him of his Danites. Why doesn't Nelson know and humiliated himself in conference? So, Vanguard Company of 1847. So what I was finding out was the handcart companies were 56 to 60. And those were the ones who came from European countries, mostly in the British Isles. Let's see. It's like they're trying to win an award for their wording here. In April 1847, Young consulted with members of the Quorum of 12 Apostles. Wow, they stole money from the English saints. Hey guys, we need money. Give us all your money. See ya. Oh God. Let's see. Map by Fremont. All right. Okay, so yeah, April 5th, 1847, that's when they moved out from winter quarters. And then, of course, we all know the date of when they arrived. Because you notice, Utah does not celebrate when Utah became a state in the Union. It's when Brigham Young fled America with the sex-trafficked women. That's what we celebrate every single year, as the church will not even acknowledge the assassination of Joseph Smith. Occasionally they'll remember his birthday, not always. That's up to the wards. On occasion, he chastised for killing more than was needed. Yeah, they were bloodthirsty savages. That's who he was bringing to Utah. And he was an authoritarian military leader. Camp was awakened by bugle at 5 a.m. and the company was expected to be prepared for travel by 7 a.m. My hell. I mean, it's one thing to make sure that people get across the plains, but it's another thing to... God. That's why I don't like the military. I mean, they say it builds character and blah, blah, blah. No. It's a militaristic Satan organization. Taking away agency. You know, it's one thing to make sure you're disciplined, to follow orders in a time of war so that you don't run off and do your own thing and cause the death of your other troops, but it can be done without the authoritarianism. And that's why I didn't want to even become a cop. You know, I want to save lives, but not the manner in which they're being taught. It's not talking about the saints who couldn't afford to go. Travel conditions, ship Brooklyn. Yeah, they're not. By December 1847, more than 2,000 had completed the journey. Okay, here we are. I skipped over it. July 1847, July 24th. He made Wilford Woodruff drive him. As, I'm sick, I have to be in the wagon. You'll have to drive me. I can't do it myself. Let's see. In August, selected members of the Vanguard Company returned to winter quarters. Okay. So he selected people in August 1847 to pick up those who were poor. Only the rich were able to go in that April 1847 trip. The ones who were poor, Brigham Young didn't bother to help pay for them to come. It was up to them to do it. That's what needs to be understood here. But he did send the cart back in August because it was clear he needed to now build up an army. And the purpose for the army, to destroy America. He was building his own kingdom of Deseret. And so in August, he then sent a group to go back and pick up the poor who were able to go then. It looks like demographic estimates place 1,611 pioneers in the valley in the winter of 1847. 53.2% were under the age of 19. 25% were under age 8 of those 53.2%. Dear God. You know, that's what you do. You kill off the old, you raise the young yourself. Now, so that's the real story of what happened here. And thus, Heber C. Kimball is the one quoted for the temple text of Brigham Young's in the endowment ceremony. One of the oaths was that they were going to seek vengeance on those who murdered Joseph and Hiram. Well, who were the ones that ordered the murder of Joseph and Hiram? Well, it was Heber C. Kimball himself, along with Brigham Young. So, yeah, sort of deceiving his followers. As Willard Richards and John Taylor were given ranks of authority, they became prophets, seers, revelators themselves. Notice no translator. Wonder why they didn't want translator. And but yeah, that was one of the covenants, was to seek vengeance on America. They were a terrorist organization that got away with their crime of murder, taking over the kingdom, committing sex trafficking of women, along with their kids, 53.2%, and starting their own kingdom because they knew the date from Revelation, from the Illuminati, of when they were going to be a part of the takeover of America. And if you haven't watched my videos, and if you can't figure it out on your own when those dates are, good luck with that. But I'll give you a hint. They have secret signs, as Helaman 6 tells us. What do you think the sign of the Illuminati, whose inspiration came from Isaiah, from the Latin Vulgate, Lucifer? What is his sign that is mentioned by Isaiah? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? That's right, the inverted pentagram. It is the inverted pentagram that we may know the enemy. And they use that themselves to coordinate the attack on America, to overthrow it. We only have 3 years left, but they're doing a heck of a job. Mission pretty much accomplished.